It's great to have you here. Welcome to Curate this morning. If you are a dad that's been invited along for the first time, welcome. If you've brought along your family for the first time, welcome. It's so awesome to have you here on Father's Day. I hope if you've been here for a few minutes early, maybe you got to see some of the cars and meet some people, have some coffee, but there'll be plenty of time for that afterwards. This is a rare day. We have actually, I don't know if you realize this, but we actually have an anti-guy in shorts policy on our stage. And the reason is nobody wants to be at eye level for 20 minutes with a man's legs. You know, like that's not a glamorous part of the body. But I thought Father's Day, halftime, the whole theme, this is the time to get my chicken sticks out. And I always got called saying I had chicken legs at school. I've been working hard at the gym. I've definitely added at least 1 centimeter in width to my calves. It's fantastic. So I wanted to show them off. I was in the Gold Coast 2 weeks ago, so I got a little bit of colour on them. So I thought it's sort of now or never. You know, they may never come out again on a Sunday, but they're here today in all of their glorious beauty. And now you're going to be fixated on them the whole time. I also wore this T-shirt, but it says lazy oaf. But it's not like a I'm with stupid sort of situation. It's just I liked the T-shirt, and if I could have had it without lazy oaf and just the smile and the colour, I would have had it. But just I'm not trying to say you're lazy, okay? And apparently I can wear it, my wife says, because I'm definitely not lazy. So it's not even like in the grey zone of like, is that a statement about who he is? But that's just some disclaimers. I know you probably can't read that because you need glasses and stuff, but... That's there. Hey, it's Father's Day. This is actually my second Father's Day without my dad. My dad passed away suddenly last year at the age of 57, but I wanted to actually show you a photo of me and my dad when I was a kid. Hopefully there we are. Yes, those are banana skins. My dad's probably pretty similar age to I am now in that photo, and I'm pretty cute. My mum probably knitted that jumper and probably that one too. And then here's another one of me and my dad. I think this is now my dad's personality's coming out a little bit more. We got Jim Beam. We're learning a bit about my dad here, David, and then this last photo pretty much sums him up. This is him. So he's got a fag in his mouth, as he referred to them as. I don't know if you can say that these days. And then he's got a Doors T-shirt, and then he's obviously being a great supervisionary parent in the situation. So just a great dad, and I love my upbringing with my family. And now I have the privilege of being a dad as well. And so here's my family. If we haven't met before, here's all of them minus one actually, but. That's obviously me and Katie, and I'm going to try to say the ages, but the difficulty is, all the dads can feel me in this, their ages change all the time. So it's not like you remember one number forever. You have to keep remembering new numbers. And so there's Violet, and she's 7, and then she's what? She's 6. She's about to turn 7 on some date that I also can't tell you. It's definitely in the back end of October somewhere. And then you've got Charlie, he's 9. And we did a Father's Day quiz this week at home. I also learned that I don't know his birthday. It's definitely in the 20s in May, and I could not tell you with any confidence right now which one it is. But then we got Micah, and he's 12. He was in the Ignite program. And then we got Sandra, he's 17, and he's over helping lead worship in Tauranga. And then we also have like our daughter Bree as well, who's she's serving in kids this morning. But that's our family. And being a dad, I know not everybody gets the privilege to be a dad, but being dad has to be the greatest privilege of my life. Being able to parent, obviously, my children, being able to, be a dad to a church and to grow into that, it has to be one of the greatest privileges. And I really just want to remind the fathers in this room, out of all of the things that you would accomplish in your life, your kids will always stand to be the greatest of those things. And not really a statement against people who maybe haven't been able to be dads or won't be able to be dads in that way, but really we could think of that in all of our life. In fact, the people we get to invest in and help raise and help care for and help steward and guide through life, that really is what life is all about. And I want to just bring a little message today called Halftime. And that's what we'll be talking about halftime. And since it's Father's Day, we should probably cut with all the fluff and just get into it. So, yeah, thanks. All the dads said, come on, photos and blah, blah, blah. Proverbs 20, verse 29, this is what we're going to talk about today. The glory of the young is their strength, and the grey hair of experience is the splendor of the old. In other words, there's a glory to being young, and there's a glory to being old, but they're not the same glory. You could rewrite it like this. The glory of the young is their strength, and the glory of the old is their grey hair. Some of you don't have any hair, so you're like, I hope there's another alternative reading to this. But the glory of what it's saying in the Jewish language, grey hair is synonymous with wisdom. And so it's saying when you're young, there's a glory to being strong. And as you get older, you grow. If you follow a certain amount of things, you grow into another type of glory. You no longer have the glory of being young. Now you have the glory of wisdom. And what actually God is wanting to do with every single one of us is He's wanting us to understand that in our season there's a glory, but God's actually leading us to another glory. What is it? Glory is that's a churchy word. It's like the beauty of, the preciousness of, the great thing about, the praiseworthy thing, the thing that should mean you should receive honor. When you're young, that is your strength. You might think, or maybe it's your beauty, maybe it's your passion, it's those youthful, young things. And over the course of your life, that type of glory will fade. I know we've got lots of different products and machines and all these different things that help it fade a little bit slower. But despite your best efforts, it'll come crashing down one day and it will fade. But that's okay, because actually there's another type of glory. And it's okay that glory would disappear, because there's another type of glory, a glory of wisdom that God is wanting to grow us into. The challenge is in the crossfade of how we move from one glory to another. And the challenge very much in our world is how do we move from one glory to another when the world only values one of those types of glory. And this is where we get ourselves in, because most people will be somewhere in the vicinity, either leaving or approaching this thing called middle age, when one glory is fading oh too quickly. Unless you're like Peter McGarvey. Hey Meryl, how old is he, 60? 63 today. He's 30 years older than me, and he can lift way more than me in the gym, but he's also wise. He's holding both glories, but he's rare. Most of us, we're in a zone in our lives, in our middle age, where one glory is fading, and how we walk through that season will determine whether or not the next glory appears or not. And many of us can probably think of actually people in our lives that haven't walked through their middle age well, and so they lost one glory, but they never actually grabbed a hold of the new glory. In fact, they found themselves in an endless loop of continuing to try and chase the former glory that was fading despite how much they chased it. This never-ending fountain of youth and fun and all of these sorts of things. But God is trying to lead us to a new glory. The problem is how God does that. It's the pressure of middle age. There's been many times in my life, because my whole life's been on fast forward. I've never been an adult and not been a parent. We've had a mortgage for way too long, and it's way too big, and all of those responsibilities. Obviously, we're pastors at a very young age, and all of the weight of those leadership things. Well, I want to talk about some of the ways God takes us from one glory to the other. Some of them aren't good news, but how we walk through it can be good news. The first is that God takes us through the weight of responsibility. And actually, we get to the places in our lives, and anybody that's lived in middle age for a little bit of time would probably understand this, that you get to a part in your life where someday you just wake up and be like, the responsibility feels too heavy to bear. That's a normal place to get to be like, I'm just sick of responsibility. I'm responsible for finances. I'm responsible for a family. I'm responsible for a marriage. I'm responsible for mortgage payments. I'm responsible at work. I'm a leader in church. I've just got so much pressure. But how we walk through that pressure will determine whether or not we get to the new glory. We have the weight of crisis. Middle age is where crisis hits from left, right, and center. It's actually when, for some of us, we lose our parents in death. It's when, for some of us, we lose our marriages in divorce. It's where some of us, we get to the end of a season in our career and we have to reinvent ourselves and relearn again. It's a time where sometimes significant health challenges face us or face people close to us. It is actually a time of our lives where crisis abounds for most people. But how we walk through crisis will determine whether or not we move from one glory to another. It's also a time of either incredible success or incredible setback. For some people, it's setback because you've actually collected enough things that losing it matters. When you're younger, you didn't have a lot to lose, so getting a setback didn't matter that much. But when you're older and you've got a lot to lose, getting a setback can... You've got a marriage to lose, or finances to lose, or a house to lose, or a career to lose. You've got something to lose, and so setbacks. And the other thing is actually success. Actually, this is really the undoing of many people in the middle age, is they for maybe 20, 25 years in their younger years, their first 20, 25 years on life, they were formed and imparted values, and they were formed in their families and their communities, and the things that happened to them, they formed them and they made a way of them seeing the world. And for the next 20 years, they lived those things out. And for many people in our world, that led to success, the collection of stuff, the building of a family. They actually achieve some things in life, but we always get to the place where we realize success will never fulfill the emptiness inside of us. And so even success in middle age can question us to go, is that all there is? And it's why we need to take some halftime break somewhere sometimes in life, because it really is our transition from one glory to the next glory. I've got to move more. From one glory to the next glory is about how we do this middle part. But if we do not get in the habit of taking good half times within this middle zone, we will find ourselves running until we get weary. We'll find ourselves throwing away what God's trying to bring into our lives, and we'll find ourselves chasing what we're increasingly losing that is supposed to be lost because we're supposed to be moving to a new thing. And this whole idea of having a halftime, I love the sports metaphor, because like the best of teams can have the best of game plans and the best of coaching and the best pre-game strategy. They can have the best recruitment, yet they can find themselves in a game against an opposition that they were ill prepared for, even the best of teams. And they can find themselves playing a first half that is overwhelming them, even though it's the very thing they train for. And that is why almost every sport has this idea of halftime. Because it doesn't matter how the first half is gone, there's an opportunity to regroup, to recalibrate, to have a little rest, to figure out what's important and change the game plan up, change the focus up so that you can play the second half how it needs to be played. And this is what we need to be prepared for in our lives. And if we haven't done it already, we all need to get to a place where we go, here's what my life has been about, but here is now what my life is going to be about. And if we do not take a time period in our lives to figure that out, we will run into default following the patterns of this world. In fact, in the scriptures, in Psalm 90, the psalmist says to the Lord, Lord, teach me to number my days, that I might gain a heart of wisdom. Lord, teach me about my life. Lord, teach me about the brevity of my life. Lord, teach me about the values of my life. Lord, teach me, give me something, Lord, about my days, that I might move from one glory and gain this heart of wisdom, which is the future glory you're drawing me into. And if in this halftime period we don't actually come to the Lord and say, teach me, Lord, to number my days, that I might move from one glory to the other, we will find ourselves not moving to the glory that God has for us. And this is what happens because people go, teach me, world, to number my days. They say, teach me, friends, to number my days. But very few people say, teach me, Lord, to number my days. So when a team gets into the locker room in halftime, every voice in that locker room doesn't matter. Only certain voices matter. In a halftime, like the reality is in any good team, like the person who's only got 1 or 2 caps under their belt, only played 1 or 2 games, are the rookie, nobody is interested in hearing from them at halftime. They haven't had enough games where they've gone from a losing half to a winning half to actually bring something to that locker room that would help the team recalibrate for the second half. Even some of the people that have played 20 games, they're not the people who talk in the best teams. The people who talk are the coach who's been here for 50 years, day in and day out, gone through it before, got medals to show for it, losses to show for it, and wins to show for it. They hear from the captain. They hear from the leadership group. And this is the problem with many of us, is we do not have a good halftime plan for our lives. We get into the half times of our lives, we get into the pressure times where the responsibility feels too much, where the crisis is taking us off guard, where the setbacks and successes are leaving us empty or full or whatever it is that's happening. We get to these parts of our lives and we don't have the right voices in the locker room. We're looking to our friends and saying, how are you coping? Are you okay? What do you reckon I should be doing? Yeah, my marriage is so hard. Oh, man, with work and with my finance. We look to the people on our left and our right. We're looking to our peers rather than looking to the people who have already gone from one glory to the other glory and saying, how did you get through all of this to end up here? This is, I think, one of the great problems of our day and age, and the thing that we must be committed to rebuilding is the sense that there is a glory to being young, but it's very different to the glory of being old. And there is something in the glory of those who have done getting old well that the younger person going through the transitional years needs to learn from and get from that you can't get from the peers that are in the same season as you. And in our sort of independent spirit world, and our world that only values one type of glory, it's easy to discount the glory that we need, but we need that glory in our locker rooms. We need that glory in our changing rooms. We need people that we can look to in our lives and go, in their faith, in their family, and in their friendships, that's where I want to be. And because that's where I want to be, I need to invite them into my halftime. I need to invite the Kit Kats are really there in the Powerade, you know. I need to invite them. I need to invite them into my locker room when the responsibility's on and I'm questioning everything and I'm wondering if I can keep going. And I don't need to hear the voice of the other people struggling around me. I need that glory in my life because there's a glory to it. And when I honor it, when I recognize it, when I give it the praise and place it deserves, that is the way that I can invite it into my life so I can transition from one glory to another over the course of my life, rather than find myself constantly chasing a glory that's ever fading. The voice matters. The scoreboard matters. The challenge really of the whole confronting thing of halftime and in its most, stressful of circumstances is the idea of this midlife crisis. The hard part about that really is what we're questioning is what I've been counting, what's actually being scored. We live for this life for 40 years maybe, or for maybe some of us hit it even at 25 years or 30 years. We get to these points in our life where we realize, I've been keeping count, but have I been keeping count of the right thing? And so I get to this place where maybe I'm making the tackles, and maybe I'm making the runs, and maybe I'm throwing the passes, or whatever the sport is. But are we actually winning? And as people of the Lord, as people who are followers of Jesus for the most part that are here, we need to make sure that in our half times we're actually keeping count of the right things. Jesus said he could boil down all of life to really 2 things. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And love your neighbor as yourself. Really, however I review the context of my life, I need to review it in the context of the scoreboard that God is keeping. What does the Lord require of me? But that I walk humbly with my God. I love mercy and I act justly in this world. Are we keeping that? That's why it says, would you teach me, Lord, to number my days? Teach me, Lord. See, Rehoboam was a king. He got given a kingdom from Solomon, the great kingdom. The kingdom was at its height. It was the greatest kingdom in the world at its time. About 1000 BC is this massive kingdom, strong, powerful. The kingdom of Israel reigned over that entire region and area. It was the world superpower of its time. That is the kingdom that got handed from Solomon to Rehoboam. Rehoboam entered that season of his life with two different circles in his life. He had the younger circle, his peers, the one who had the glory of strength, and he had an older circle, his father's advisors, the ones who had the glory of wisdom. And it tells us that he got to a crucible point in his leadership and in his life where one group was saying, this is the direction you should go in your kingship, and another group was saying, this is the direction you should go in your kingship. And because Rehoboam decided to not listen to the grey hairs, but instead to listen to his peers, he received bad advice, and the whole kingdom collapsed under his leadership. It was actually torn apart, never to be restored again until this day. And this is why when we enter these halftime periods in our life, who we listen to actually matters. We need to listen to people who have the conduit of the Lord's wisdom, the scriptures, the power that comes from these things. Look, here's what actually happens. The glory of this glory of the young is their strength, and normally that is building a life of success. Nobody starts out trying to build a life of failure. We all set out to build a life of success. We go to university, we go to trade school, we get a job, we go travel the world, we do whatever we want to do. We find ourselves, perhaps for many people, meeting someone significant, settling down at some point in our lives. We build a family if we're blessed enough to be able to do that in that season. We build a career, we might build a business. We build these things that on the external level, they all look successful. And that's really what part of, from your 20s to your 50s, that's sort of like what life is about. It's about building something. It's about building a base. It's about building a foundation. It's about making the world a better place. It's about, building your wealth. It's about raising a family. There's nothing wrong with those things. It's this journey of success. The Lord wants us to be successful. He wants us to work with all of our might. He wants us to love with all of the love we get. He wants us to build something. However, what happens when we've built something as we enter the next season of our lives, what we do with what we've built really matters. And here's what so often happens is people, they build something that's successful by whatever measures people use. And then they enter a halftime. And if they're not careful, what they do is they go from success to selfishness. And they live out the rest of their days for themselves. They're like, I gave my best years to my family. I gave my best years to that business. I've worked hard. I've paid my dues. I've paid my taxes. I've done my thing. But now I'm on Joel time. I've done that, and this is why halftime matters, because God doesn't want you to go from success to selfishness. He wants you to go from success to significance. The reality is there is a change in the game at some point in your life, but it's not changing from building and building and building and building to just now living off the fruits of those things. It's actually changing from building to how can I help other people build something. This matters in faith because we get to these places where, I don't really need anybody else to live out my faith well. So I don't really need to be at church. I'm just going to go fishing and I'm going to go traveling. And this is what so many people, thankfully not here, in their 50s and their 60s and their 70s do, because they move from success to selfishness rather than being like, I need to move to significance. I've got something to give back to them. It's no longer I don't have the glory of strength, so it's not up for me to take every opportunity, but it is up to me to now be a mentor and guide somebody through. I want to tell you, if you're here and you're in this season of your life, you are needed now more than you've ever been needed in your life. Because there is a whole bunch of younger glory trying to make their way to a future glory, and they need a guide to step into the journey with them and help pull them through. This is the problem in the church at the moment, is there is a whole generation missing because they moved from success to selfishness. And there's nobody to guide The 20s and the 30s and the 40s coming through. And if you're here and you're in that older age group, thank you for being here. Thank you for leading your small group. Thank you for serving in the teams you serve in, because you're so needed. If you're in this middle zone, find some people like that and follow along in their footsteps. Learn from them. Invite them to your house for a meal and let them invite you to theirs. And if you're in this season, look to people down there. You're not supposed to go through the half times and the crisis and the responsibilities all alone. God put a glory for the young man, which is his strength. Enjoy it, but let him lead you to the glory that is wisdom. And then we can build a legacy type of church, a legacy type of community. This is really what fathering is. Fathering is like always looking to the fathers and always holding on to the sons. Like for me, I have a father and I have fathers as well, and it's about holding out and reaching out for them. They might pull me along, and it's always reaching back to my sons and to my daughters and pulling them forward on the journey. That's actually what God is wanting us to do. So maybe you need to take a halftime break. Maybe you need to get the Bible out and some wise advice out and go, man, I built a pretty good life. But what's the second half going to be about? Is it going to be about me? Or is it going to be about God and what He's doing on this earth?